Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life, the TV show. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, I'm Dr. Davia Shepherd. I'm your host, and basically, our intention with our show every single week is to talk to you about ways that we can grow our businesses smarter. Sure, all the tricks and tips that you can use to make this more efficient for you so that we can be doing the very best that we can be in our business. But one of the things that tends to happen a lot is we're so focused on the growing your business piece that we kind of forget about the personal piece sometimes. I know it's happened to me. And so maybe because it's been my experience, maybe that's why I feel so strongly about the fact that the other piece, the living your optimal life piece, cannot be excluded from any conversation that we're going to be having about growing our business in a better way. And let's face it, when I talk about growing your business smarter, I'm always talking about what kind of applications are out there that we can apply to make sure that we are not overdoing it ourselves. Who can we collaborate with that we will help them and they will help us and everybody's going to benefit? What are the ways that we can do this in a more collaborative, more connected way so that as we grow, they grow and everybody grows. And it's just like this rising tide that's lifting all the boats. So that's what we're all about. That's what our show is all about. Most of the people who benefit from watching us, they might be a lot of our, let's face it, a lot of our viewers are women, but we have some amazing men who are part of our community. And if you'd like to be a part of our community, where we're having conversation like this every single day, and we're making connections with the other folks who feel the same way that we feel, just hop on over to growsmarter.harder.com/Facebook. That's growsmarter.harder.com/Facebook. And we'll do a really, really good job of welcoming you into our community. And you can start to grow your business smarter and live your optimal life with us as well. So, having said all of that, I just want to say one more thing. Most of the times that we get together, we're virtual, whether it's here on our TV show or on our podcast or having conversation in our group. But twice a year, we get together in person and also in a virtual way, but live. And so I want to invite you, if it feels right to you, to check out our information about our upcoming Ladies Power Lunch Summit. You'll find that information at growsmarter.harder.com/ticket. And it'll tell you all about the amazing summit that we have planned to help us to get together, collaborate more, and to build the foundations that we need in our business, but also to build the foundations that we need in ourselves so that no matter what the winds of time do around us, we can be solid and stable and maintain our inner peace and maintain our unbreakable business. So look out for that at growsmarter.harder.com/ticket. Okay, that's all the housekeeping stuff that I have for today. I want to welcome our special guest. I am really excited to welcome Adam. He's joining us all the way from Peru, you all. I tell you guys all the time that we started from a group of 6 women in a Ruby Tuesday on Route 6 in Bristol, and now our membership is international. I'm really, really proud of that. And not proud of myself, but proud that so many people really believe in this idea that when we link arms, when we get together, when we support each other, that's actually when we win the most. You think you're winning already? Oh, people, you don't even know what winning is like yet until you have gotten together with a group of your best besties. Anyway, Adam's here to talk to us today about how you can build your unbreakable business by being the clearest version of yourself, your clearest you. And I can't wait to have this conversation. Welcome, Adam. Thanks so much for jumping through all the hoops that you have to jump through to actually connect with us here in Connecticut, all the way from Peru. We welcome you. Can you share with everybody who you are and tell us a little bit about the work that you do in the world?
So my name is Adam Latin. I'm the founder of the Clearest. I really work with people around a clearer awareness of themselves and a clearer awareness, especially of their external environment. I know that very many people are all about internal mindset, but we do have triggers and experiences in different aspects of our external environment that we need support in working with. And so that's a lot more of what I do. I help people analyze and be clear on their external circumstances. And so I really believe in the idea that there are multifaceted aspects that we can engage within our external environment as well as our internal environment. So that's, I really help people create and communicate who they are so that they can embrace their external environment, be it their relationships, their families, their connections, whatever it is, professional connections as well. I really help them find the right words to speak and share who they are.
So you have a pretty great story, Adam, and I'm going to just put you on blast right now because I'm really sure that our audience wants to know a little bit more about why is Adam in Peru? You've probably recognized right away that Adam was my neighbor here in Connecticut some time ago, and now Adam's in Peru and thriving. So can you tell us a little bit about why you moved to Peru and why knowing where you are in the world actually is influential to basically how unbreakable your business can be?
So what people don't always think about is the fact that each area, each little piece. So as you were saying, I'm from Connecticut originally, spent most of my life in Connecticut, lived in the South for a very brief period of time. And then I knew I was living in Connecticut. It was toward the middle of COVID, like things were just not happening and I was feeling stuck. And I really, for me professionally, I love what I do. I had a good client load, but I was so missing having that romantic partner. And I was inspired through different groups, through masterminds that I belong to consider the idea of moving someplace where my values romantically matched more accurately where moving someplace, basically Peru. Family is very important. Serving one another is very important. And I just didn't feel like that energy was held the same way where I was in the United States. And so I went to a full moon meditation, mentioned I wanted to go to Peru. Someone turned to me and said, I have a contact for you. And then I basically 3 months later, I just jumped, leaped, found someone to rent my home to help with expenses. And I just leaped to move to Peru. It took me less than 2 months to find my wife. It took me less than 2 months to find my wife. And it was just an amazing experience. Being here, the people are so different and the connection feels completely different. Even though I don't speak the language, I'm still able to create a powerful connection.
How's your Spanish coming along, Adam?
I probably only know about 500 words. That sounds like a lot, but when you really understand how many words there are in a particular language, it's nothing. So, but it doesn't really matter. Technology is amazing. I use my translator all the time. And my wife uses our translator. And we're actually excited to be coming in March. So I'm actually going to be able to make it to the summit. I thought I was going to have to be virtual, but my wife and I are actually coming in. So we'll be able to actually be there in person during the summit time period.
That's wonderful. I'm so excited about that, Adam. That's really, really great. So guys, you heard it here first. Adam's going to be here and he's going to be live and in person at our Ladies Power Lunch Summit. So make sure you've got some information about what Summit's going to be about. And I would hope that you would join us in person and you can also join us virtually. That is also an option. So Adam, this is an amazing story. You had never been to Peru before. Your command of the Spanish language is not that great. You realized that the location that you were in was not being supportive of you, your values, and your business. And You took a leave?
Oh, oh no, it was supporting my business beautifully. It was
Okay.
not supporting my romantic life. And that
Okay.
was the challenge. I was able to move my business. I was able to keep my business virtual because
Yes.
of COVID anyway. And I
Hmm.
was able to personally, I love my Connecticut clients. I worked so much still with people from Connecticut and now at this point all over the world because of what virtual allows us to do. But I was not being fulfilled romantically. And that was really what I wanted for myself. That was the next sort of goal for myself.
And
And so
that's what
I
we talk
moved.
about, like wanting to make sure that, yes, your business is doing well, but also that the other parts of your life are also thriving. So that's great. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I just want to let people know that, you know, again, it's not always something you need to change inside of yourself. I know that that's a very common thread that people talk about, but sometimes it is external circumstances or it is something that can be impacted in different ways. And so just really, if you've tried to do stuff internally and you're not finding the results you want, uh, talk to someone else who can also support and help you analyze your external life.
So who then? Because I can see how I'm one of those people who I really believe that looking at all areas is important. And I believe that, looking at what's going on inside is tremendously important. But let's face it, the environment is going to be tremendously important too. For me, I know I feel this sense of peace and just absolute inner well-being when I am close to the ocean. It's one of those things that I cannot explain with words, but get me close to the ocean and I'm living my best life. So, my question for you is, who is the kind of person who really benefits the most from doing work with you?
I work with people pleasers. I work with people who've experienced trauma, people who really feel like there's nothing within them that they can bring more forward. People that are in effort exhaustion, especially because so many people talk about this idea that effort is the answer, and they become so discouraged and so despairing and feel like such a burden. And what I teach and I work with is the idea that yes, if you put all your eggs in one basket and ask a solo individual to support you, that is going to be too much oftentimes for one particular person. But if you create a team and an army of people, like that's a completely different story. Okay. If you have the right grouping and the support system, okay, you really need to be able to um you really need to be able to um know it's not always about solely the work that you do. It doesn't always have to be this heightened sense of self-responsibility, especially if you're in a level of pain where your pain is so loud you're paralyzed by it. And there's so little compassion in the self-help industry, in my opinion, for people whose pain is so loud that they are paralyzed by it. It's like, no, you just have to find a way to wake up and try harder. And it's like, no, find people to help support and quiet the noise. Find a way for them to engage with different pieces so that um, you can step into a positive sense of power. But to really understand that it's okay that you're exhausted, that you're overburdened, that you feel like such a burden. And when you know, if people are actually shaming you, if they're making you feel ashamed, like that's not the right person for you to work with. Like, come work with me. If I don't have the right vibration for you, I have so many colleagues that I trust to be able to be supportive in the right ways that um if I can't help you, if I'm not a vibrational person for you, there are so many other people I can send you to that are not going to additionally shame you for the fact that you're so lost, you're so suffering, you're so exhausted. And it's such, people talk about being vulnerable, and then they immediately turn around and get someone to reduce their vulnerability instead of saying, wow, it's amazing that you're living in that space. There's no letting someone just hold and be in the space they're in. It's how do we reduce it? How do we get rid of it? And I just, there is a level of conscious, unconscious shaming and unconscious judgment that it, believe it or not, especially exists in non-judgmental people. And so, like, I've just found that I have a unique view that helps clients, helps other people really do the, really create the life and the experience they want without putting it solely on them. Because we don't choose to have a lack of knowledge. And I'm sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of time on this, but I really believe that people judge a lack of information. Like, how do they not know this? Especially in relationships and different situations. And I try and explain to people, when would someone, where do you know for sure, where's the evidence that someone's had exposure to the information and the awareness you want them to have? And so to be able to really authentically and accurately give grace is a big portion of what I believe in. And so a lot of this is, I talk about accurate awareness, like really being accurate, really being engaged with the circumstances you're in, the limitations and gifts of the people around you. All of that is really key to creating and building the type of connections you want, the type of life you want, and to not have too much hope or too much fear, and to be able to get support in that. You know, we just don't have a lot of people offering authentic grace, it seems to me, from the position that I'm in.
So we're a very practical show over here, and we like to have things that we can work on, things that we can actually take and apply into our lives, integrate into our lives, into our businesses, so that we can move ourselves forward. So as we move forward this week, what advice would you have for us? What are some of the do's and don'ts that you would suggest that we employ so that we can be the clearest version of ourselves?
Okay, so when you're newly coming upon knowledge, don't judge yourself for not previously having been without that knowledge. Because, like, ask yourself, where would I have had time or the opportunity to have learned that previous to that moment? And equally, when you're approaching other people, ask yourself, when would they have learned how to behave, or how to have that knowledge, or have that knowledge of you?
So Adam, tell me, like, how might this show up for somebody? Do you have like an example of a client where you've seen this happen, or maybe even a story about how this happened in your own situation?
Okay, so here's a great example that I had. I have a client who was living in Boston, and she was completely overwhelmed in all areas of her life. She was miserably unhappy, and she was living with 5 other people. And no one said to her previous to this, do you realize that you're processing all of the emotional energy of those 5 people? No one had ever said that to her before. Never occurred to her that it wasn't inside of her, that it was actually in her environment that was the problem. Okay? And so once I said that to her, I immediately also intuitively knew that there was a specific state in the Midwest that she needed to move to. And in moving, she it so happens, as happens with me because I am an intuitive, that that particular state, there was a branch of her company. So the transition of moving from that location to another location was a much easier transition than it would have been if there wasn't a way for her to actually create wealth and resources for herself. She made that move, and almost immediately, all of her exhaustion, despair, challenge was completely different because she was able to get a decent enough salary where she was earning enough money to be able to afford her own place there, okay, where she was. She was working in a physical environment for the business she was working in actually required less hours and effort and energy of her, to the point where she was actually the one working the most, because she was used to a Northeastern culture, professional culture. And instead she was in this Midwestern culture that was actually so miles slower than she was. So she was so all of this stuff changed in her environment, allowing her to completely celebrate herself. And it was just simply a decision to pack up and move to a different location. This person that was exhausted, months later, we were working together, and we realized that not only did she not have that level of despair and challenge of dealing with people and thinking of herself as that, she was actually she was on a board of, this person that was struggling with people was actually on the board of a society to help support others. And she was doing all this other additional work because she had this personal power. And it wasn't a challenge within her. It was that she wasn't a match for where she didn't belong where she was. And no one had ever said to her, what if it's not you? What if it's your outside location? And there was that energy of, well, should she blame herself for not knowing that or acknowledge? There wasn't anyone that she'd met previously that even had that perception, had that idea, had that creative spark to be able to support her with. And that's a lot of what I do, is I have that creative spark because I've so much studied on a personal level from my own story and so many other people's, like really engaged with the idea of like what really impacts people, what really affects them, and not to have people judging themselves. You know, one of the things that I talk about is people say, stop yourself from reacting. But if you look at the actual definition of reaction, you can't stop yourself from reacting. You can potentially turn a reaction into a response. And the reaction is an uncontrolled response to stimuli. So I just want people to stop judging themselves when they are triggered. If they have a landmine within themselves, that landmine 95+% of the time was put there by someone else. So you're going to judge yourself for something that was inserted into you without your consent. Like, I don't think that's a practically judging yourself for a landmine that exists within you through no fault of your own is another practical thing. Like, don't judge yourself for landmines that you have within yourself.
That's a really good don't. Give us a few more.
Okay.
Because we're running low on time, but
right.
I would
so
love to get
don't
all
expect people to be able to receive the information that you want to give them unless you have evidence they previously received similar information. Expectations are such a communication killer. Do not communicate in a way that is uncomfortable for you. Some people communicate stronger through a written format. Use that if you do that. One do that I want to highly recommend to people who have challenges with speaking is to do audio journaling and to journal audibly so that they can hear themselves actually speaking the words that they want. I would say another one is use phrasing and language like, this is what makes me feel most supported, instead of, I need you to do this for me, okay? Really learn how to phrase language and wording in such a way that you're creating a team. I know people have heard that before, but they've heard it in a general way. They're not using the correct phrasing. Like these are the ways in which I engage. Really understand a value system. What someone values is inherently built into them. So don't really recognize when you're subconsciously giving the message that you want someone to value things in a different order or a different amount. Really restrict yourself from doing that. And I would say, please, when you're struggling with something, ask who is in direct alignment with you that you can learn from. Like, so many people say, this looks okay, I'll do this. So I hope this language isn't too inappropriate, but I'm a hell yes, hell no person. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And to really engage like within yourself, when I think about connecting with this person, like if this is a sacred relationship, when you think about it, it'll be a hell yes. Anything else should be relegated to being wasteful. So categorize sacred or wasteful. Those are some really clear, like in our lives, really prioritize based on what's inside of you, not what you want to be important to you, but what really is. So prioritize it, whether it's professional, personal, all of that. Really make sure that you recognize if something is a match for you, it's either really a match or it's not a match at all.
If you were to give us one piece of homework to do, just something that we can tap into over the next week as we really think about the things that you shared with us today, what would that one thing be?
Write down a list of each person in your life and put them into different categories, but they can only exist in one category. These are the categories. Someone who loves you, someone who supports you, someone who celebrates you, and someone who is capable of cherishing you. But it's only one category. And then once you have those four categories,
let me make sure I have the four categories right. So someone who loves you, someone who supports you, someone who celebrates you, and someone who cherishes you. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did. Okay. And then put them in order in terms of who does it the most and who does it the least. And then recognize there will be people that are not in any of those four categories, which means that you're in a relationship for them, not for you. And that's never healthy.
That's really a great exercise. I look forward to seeing what the feedback is inside of the Ladies Power Lunch group to see how people are faring with this.
Because we want all those things from one person, but really, truly, we should stop expecting that one individual to feed so many different categories of us.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Adam. So at the end of every show, I pull a card, and today's card is from the Divine Abundance deck by Tusha Silver, and it says Liberation. The reading is, the doubts and fears still come up. You don't believe anymore that they are you. How do you feel like that fits in with what we've been talking about today?
Well, I really believe most of our doubts and fears do come from a place of someone else's input. And when we truly recognize something with accuracy, we're not afraid of it. We don't doubt it, we just acknowledge it. When you can see things accurately, it frees you. It's like, I am a messy person. Having acknowledged that, I no longer shame myself around the fact that I can't keep anything clean. Okay? Instead, knowing that when I was living alone, I hired someone to clean up for me. Now, it so happens, one of my wife's amazing qualities is she is a stronger tornado of order than I am of disorder. So I no longer need to hire someone to do it for me. that is one of the ways that she shows a level of love to me, is she keeps the order where she knows I can't. Whereas I support her in making her feel safe in a way no one ever has before.
That's so wonderful. That's really beautiful. I want to say thank you, Adam, for joining us today. This has been a really great conversation. I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in. If you're watching on the replay, one of the things I would advise is that do watch us live, because you'll get a chance to continue the conversation with us even after the credits have played. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next show. Maybe I'll even see you at Summit. Who knows? It would be wonderful to have you there. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Bye.